How today we're talking about is Biffa Stock A Buy, and this was the stock that got the most thumbs up in the comments below on the last UK stock video I did. So Biffa turns out is the one that I'm covering, and as always guys, if you comment down below on this video the stock or the UK stock that you'd like me to cover next, I'll make sure I'll cover that one next time. I actually thought it was going to be Aston Martin, so I was really surprised that Biffa won, but there we go. So I'll cover Biffa for you guys today. As always, if you can smash that like button, that's absolutely amazing. So the comment that got most likes was a comment from Played by Vikes, and he asked, can Biffa stock be the next Waste Management? And that was a really interesting comment, because for you guys that don't know, Waste Management is a US company that is on the US stock market, and it's always kind of been referred to as one of the safest investments that you can make, because waste is always going to be around. Even if there's a recession, there's still waste, there's still people that need their rubbish that's being collected, and in a good economy, obviously there's still waste there. Now, the only slight difference is when everything shuts down, and then all these kind of private contracts, they lose all them because the companies aren't operating. So we are in a little bit of a different scenario, but normally when we do have a recession, a lot of waste companies are seen as recession proof and are very safe companies, just like the Johnson Johnsons and kind of Coca-Colas of this world. They're always kind of known as very safe companies. So because of the comparison to Waste Management, I will try and put a couple of Waste Management comparisons in here, just to kind of show how well it is doing compared to Waste Management. So Biffa is the second largest UK waste management company, and it was founded in 1912. It's kind of changed hands a few times since then and changed a couple of names, but it has been around for a really long time. And going on to the Biffa Investor Relations page, we can see that they're quite clearly making a big key point of that they are trying to make a lot of investments and acquisitions over the last few years, which they're hoping to really pay off for them. They're hoping that with increased demand and the ability to have more contracts and having more units around the UK, it's going to give them more chance for them to grow their EPS and revenue, and they have invested quite heavily to buy a few companies out and also open up their own facilities. And obviously with a lot of pressure on recycling as well at the moment, they're trying to improve a lot of their recycling plants, and that's where they're trying to kind of sell it that hopefully in the long term this is really going to pay off for them. Now at the moment the stock is at £2.02 as of recording this video. It might have changed by the time I've edited the video and uploaded it, but the ticker symbol for this one is BIFF, BIFF. And you can, when we look at this stock chart, you can see it is a bit of a volatile stock right now. It's had quite a few swings, and right now it's looking like it's kind of down at one of the bottom of its swings. And normally from here, we do see the stock normally go up from here. So it is looking like this is probably one of the better opportunities where it's a little bit more of a discount from here for you to get into. Well, there definitely has been quite a few swings in this stock over the last few years. Now according to Simply Wall Street, this stock is 45% undervalued, and when we take a look at the revenue is forecast to stay quite flat, but the EPS is looking to try and jump up 50%. Now this is what Biffa have been saying quite a bit. They are hopefully looking for that EPS to jump up. After it jumps up, it'll stay flat a little bit, but they're really hoping for some of these investments to really pay off for Biffa. And when we look at the past revenue and EPS, this is where it gets a little bit more worrying, because when we look at the past revenue growth, it's actually been quite good. But the little negative I do have is the poor EPS, and you could argue that this has kind of been affected by a lot of investments and acquisitions that they've made. But even so, I would still like to see the company have a positive EPS. And also when I look at the profit margins, I do start to see that being a little bit worrying. The profit margins are only around about 1%, and just to put that into context, when we look at something like a Waste Management, they tend to have double figures profit margins, at least 10%. So we can see that them profit margins are not exactly amazing right there, but hopefully they're able to sort that out going forward. When we look at the balance sheet, it is a little bit of a messy one. There's only 65 million in cash and the debt is 292 million. So it's not an amazing balance sheet right there. And just generally, like when I look at Waste Management, to be fair, their balance sheet isn't a fantastic one either. But to have such a gap between the cash and a debt is always a little bit of a nervous one for me. I always like to see there's quite a little bit of cash on there just in case anything does happen, that they're okay. And obviously, like a situation right now where it's lost, obviously quite a lot of work, it has quite a bit of cash to fall back on. So I would like to see the balance sheet slightly cleaner than this. But like I say, comparing it to Waste Management, their balance sheet isn't exactly a standout one either. I think Waste Management has something like 3 billion on their balance sheet with like 12 billion debt. So it's kind of like the same sort of percentage cash to debt ratio, but there's definitely a big difference between 65 million in cash and 3 billion in cash. So I would say that could be slightly better. Now, with a company like Biffa and Waste Management, the companies that tend to not explode on the share price because they don't have exploding revenue growth, they tend to have a lot of people that want to go in there, have a little bit of share growth, but also collect a nice little bit of a dividend. And recently, Biffa's dividend was 3.59%, which is not a bad dividend yield at all, but unfortunately it has had to pull its dividend, so it's currently not paying that dividend right now. I think if that balance sheet was slightly cleaner, maybe they would have been able to carry on paying that dividend. It's not a bad dividend ratio, because comparing it to Waste Management, I think it's slightly higher than Waste Management, but obviously you can kind of see that balance sheet, just if that was slightly better, maybe we would still get that dividend. But if everything goes back to normal, it's not a bad dividend really to be collecting, and generally normally a safe stock. Now, when I look into the insiders, I do see a little bit of a red flag here. I do see a lot of insiders selling the company, which is slightly worrying. As you know, when I look insiders, I do like to see at least a low amount of insiders selling, or hopefully if the stock has sold off, I really do like to see a lot of insiders buying the company, because they kind of think, oh, the company's undervalued, how well we're doing and how well the company's going to be in a year or 2 years time. I can buy shares really cheap here and I'm going to make money on them, and they kind of have the best knowledge of that. And when I look at the insiders here, there is a lot selling, and with it dropping down low to where it normally rebounds, I'd like to see a few people at least buying a little bit here, but there's still, there's a lot of insiders selling. And when we look at Waste Management, they have a few insiders selling as well, but definitely not as many as this. So that's a little bit worrying for me, because the big thing that Biffa is trying to push here is that the EPS is going to grow huge over kind of the next year, and it's all going to start paying off for them, a lot of these investments they've made. But if the board truly believe that and it's on this sale, wouldn't they go pick it up? And even like looking at the P wise, it is a little bit of high PE. It's about, I think it's 26 PE. So that's slightly a little bit of a red flag right there. So overall, what's my kind of opinion with Biffa? Am I going to go buy some shares into Biffa? Now, looking at the company, if we were to judge it on the past performance, I wouldn't really invest in it because of how the EPS has done. The kind of worry that I have around the balance sheet and the insiders, that makes me a little bit worrying. But looking forward, can it get to where Waste Management is? And there is potential for it to get there. I don't know, with it being a safer investment, normally I kind of go for stocks that have a little bit more of a bigger return. I like to be a little bit more risky and have a little bit more growth in my company, so I get kind of a big share price increase and maybe a little bit of dividend as well. With companies like this, there isn't going to be that massive share price increase. It's kind of having that safety and collecting that dividend. So this company normally doesn't fit my kind of investing strategy overall. Comparing it, can it get to Waste Management standards? I think it could do, but it's going to be interesting to see how it does it, because to me, it looks like a lot of the board aren't kind of backing it to get there, because I feel like they would be buying a lot of shares right now. And with these investments that it's made, it's hurt the balance sheet, so the balance sheet isn't as clean as it could be, especially for a company that we're trying to get that dividend and pick that dividend up. But like I say, it has made these investments, and if this investment's paid off and it gets to where it should be, and that EPS, a 50% increase, that'll be fantastic. And if it can get to that point where it has good EPS growth, where it has a big jump in its EPS growth, the revenue carries on growing steadily, and then the EPS carries on growing steadily, and then it pulls some debt off that balance sheet, I think it would be a very similar company to Waste Management. But I don't know if it's there just yet. I think it still has a little bit of work to do, and maybe after the end of the year, we'll see how the company is doing. I mean, it might even take more debt onto the balance sheet with it having to furlough a lot of the staff right now. We'll see. But right now, I don't think it's right where waste management is. It needs to improve that EPS, then profit margins, get that balance sheet a little bit cleaner for me, and get back to paying that dividend. So right now, it's not right there just yet, but maybe in a year's time, if everything works out for them, we could be talking about the UK version of waste management. So that's kind of my opinion right now. I personally would not invest in it just yet until we see that kind of improvement, because I think you could kind of wait with a company like this. And overall, I generally won't be buying this company because, like I say, I normally like to be a little bit riskier than these sort of companies. I normally want to get a big price increase on the stock price, which I don't know really if you would get this past its 52-week highs. And also, if I'm getting a dividend stock, I normally like to go for dividend stocks that are normally 4-5% dividend yields, maybe even higher. So for me, I'm going to give this one a miss right now, but definitely it's one to keep an eye on and see how they do over the next coming year and if everything really pays off for them. And that's the video today, guys, talking about Biffa stock. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you can like the video, that'd be absolutely amazing. Subscribe if you haven't, and remember, comment down below the stock that you'd like me to cover next. If the stock you want me to cover next has already been commented down below, make sure you like that comment rather than posting it again, because I go for the one that has the most likes. And apart from that, guys, I'll see you on the next video.